Aujourd'hui, nos paupières et nos portes sont closes. Les autres sont toujours en overdose.
J'ai pas mauvaise conscience, ça m'empêche pas de dormir. Et pour tout dire, ça gâche un peu le goût de mes plaisirs.
C'est pas vraiment ma faute s'il y en a qui ont faim. Mais ça le deviendrait si on n'y change rien.
DJs are rock back. Well, over the past, since the 1980s, there's been the emergence of new financialized forms of state debt and personal debt that didn't exist before. So I think Anatole and Stephen are a bit disingenuous in suggesting that we can talk about debt in general. We need to look at these historical changes. So what did that mean when financialized state debt emerged? Well, what it meant was that governments could no longer control the raising of their own money. What they used to do was they used to print money, or they used to go and have arrangements with banks where they took loans, and that was under the control of political institutions and political rhythms. But since the 1980s, encouraged by the World Bank, the IMF, the Maastricht Treaty, what's happened is a shift in that borrowing form. And instead what governments do now is that they issue sovereign debt bonds through central banks to market maker banks that then go into the financial markets and are then used for primary and secondary derivative trading, producing massive speculation, which means that our governments are now subject to the rhythms of the markets, and they can't take their own independent political decisions about what to do on the economy, whether that's redistribution or welfare. If we then turn to personalized, financialized credit, which is, we all have that. We have our mortgages, if we're lucky to have mortgages. We have our credit cards. We have our student loans. That might not seem to be a problem. In fact, Anatole was suggesting that this was a democratizing force in society. But I don't think it is. I think it's the opposite. Because what's happened is that some of the money that's been pumped into the system through sovereign debt funds into the financial markets has then been used to expand the usage of personal debt for all of us since the 1980s. And because we have that debt, we're not protesting about the declining value in real terms of our wages. And that means that there isn't political resistance to either our governments doing nothing about accumulation at the top or the declining value of our wages. And in fact, we have families in London now using debt fare instead of welfare. 12% of families across the UK turning to credit cards to cover household expenses. And I'm sure you will have experiences of this as well. So what I'm saying is current forms of debt are a trap. They're making the rich get richer, the poor poorer, and we don't have governments that are going to do anything about it.
OK, thanks.
aaanxxxn.